Now that we're into the squad room, I'm so excited that we're in here, and you're going to feel a little bit different vibe here. Well, we're already very, very casual in this episode. You will notice a different vibe in future episodes. Again, there's going to be a little bit of fun to it, but we're going to really dive into very specific topics, and we are going to be respectful of delivering only what you need and going right to that. But now we're in the squad room. I want to just continue.
Wait, should a siren or something go off now that we're in the squad room?
Yeah. Okay, production, if you don't mind putting that in, because the boss just said we need a siren. And actually, I want to take just a minute to recognize so that everyone knows our production team. We have an awesome production team led by producer Sarah, who really is structuring this, who's all behind the scenes. There's probably going to be times where you're going to get a chance to meet her in a show.
Sarah Back. Yeah.
Yep, Sarah Back, and literally back, B-A-C-K. And
she has our back.
And she has our. That's really good. That's really good. It's be our little nameplate or something. And then we have Ashley Blackburn, who is part of that production team, and we're just very fortunate to have the two of them making. You don't need more to look good. I need a lot. They there might be times where they put a bag over my head electronically, but anyways, it's going to be great. But here we are in the squad room. So for those of you that have joined us today as a member of the Good Squad, or you've been offered an opportunity to come in for a one-time visit, those sort of things, I just want to continue this conversation. And specifically, I want to talk a little bit more about threat assessment. And I realize that many of you are not threat assessors. You're maybe not practitioners, and you've heard kind of this terminology out there. And I find it, even when people ask me what I do, because I do so many different things in Belanti, it's kind of this big picture, but I'll many times use the terminology threat assessment. And let's kind of talk about maybe just a little better picture of what it is.
Yeah, maybe I could talk about when I first learned about threat assessment.
Yeah, we'll start there.
Bill Kohlmeyer days. And
that's right.
And
start
back
there.
in the
Bill,
Salem.
how you doing? Hopefully you're out there watching us.
And Rebecca Hillier.
Yeah.
But so when I was working on my PhD at OSU, I was also working for higher education.
Okay.
And we put together a dynamic team behavioral threat assessment. And we had the downtown Salem team, who was my mentor, and I learned a lot from him. And a lot of people have heard about Salem Kaiser School, so separate team, but it all started about roughly the same year. Amazing people, and I learned a lot. So here we are. Kohlmeyer, who is our chief of public safety, started the team, and I'm like, yeah, this is great. Started reading up on it, getting training, and it's like, wow, FBI's recommending this. Right? U.S. Department of Education, Secret Service. Yep. So we're doing the right thing. Then I was invited to go do this presentation up in Portland for higher ed. Okay. And I'll never forget. Well, first I was a little nervous because there's also a lot of cops in the room, packing, and I wasn't around a lot of cops.
They would have never known you weren't one. So you just got to walk in, own the room.
But it was funny, Jim, because I was like, this is what behavioral threat assessment is. And they have this glazed over look, like, what is this lady talking about? So I asked, how many of you have heard of behavioral threat assessment? And only one hand went up. And I was just dumbfounded. And this was almost 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I'm back.
But it was already hot by then,
Yeah.
So
it's been going on since the late 80s.
Okay.
So I'm in the car, carpooling. I called Dr. Dykman, who is my major advisor. And I was like, I want to switch my topic. And really, I'm curious if there is best practice for behavioral threat assessment. Yeah. Why don't we see this all in higher education? And he's like, let's go for it. So switched my whole research topic and design and just plunged into it. In doing that, I ended up doing a randomized survey and finding out that really a lot of people think they know about threat assessment, but they're looking at more like preparing for a hurricane or an earthquake.
I hear that all the time.
Fire, but that's not behavioral threat assessment.
Yeah.
So one cool thing, cut me off too if I start getting too long.
You're okay for now. And folks, this is a reminder too, and this is what you're going to see in the squad room, and that is, this is more free form. We're going to be respectful of your 15 minutes each week in the show. So when you reach that 15 minute, you go, finally they're going to stop talking, or the guest is going to stop talking.
Oh, they're going to be wanting more.
Well, I know that's what's going to happen. That's my little, you just ruined my teaser. Don't interrupt. Anyways, so see what happens when people interrupt. My great teaser was just destroyed, but that's what's going to happen is we're going to get into that 15 minutes. You're going to get so much out of that. And I do encourage you, certainly you can watch it, listen to it anywhere, listen to it in the shower, listen to it in the car, watch it, when you get home, watch it with the family, whatever it takes. But you're going to walk away with so much information from that 15 minutes, and you are going to want more. And so what happens in the squad room is this part of the conversation where we're not going to be on the clock. We're not going to have my little timer there going, Bennett, shut up, stop talking. We're going to end up having whatever time we need. And sometimes those after show conversations, maybe 10 minutes. Because again, I want to be respectful that we're not just waste your time. This is casual today. It's not going to feel like this in next week's show because we got a lot to cover and it's going to be very fast. Again, like what I'd said right from the beginning in the earlier show of just simply, I want you to kind of get to know us and our personality. So when I make dumb jokes, you're not like, wow, that was really crazy. Why would he say that? You already have a hint of my personality as well as Rebecca's. So just kind of keep that in mind as we go through this. And where were we? I don't even remember.
I was getting ready to tell you something really geeky that I was doing in my research for behavioral threat assessment. Because I was confused, Jim, about there you have the United Postal Service talking one thing, you have the Secret Service, you have Salem Kaiser, and so it was all over the place. So I spent hours really plotting out who is saying what and why. And so we have all these different models. In fact, in our threat assessment training, we have a resource library built for people. And I call it the Matrix, but it's basically a fancy spreadsheet.
And that's actually the name of a movie. It's more than one. It's a franchise.
And I bet you know who's in that movie.
I'm not even going to go there because you don't know.
But so my Matrix, the TAP Matrix, okay. And people love it. I used it just as a study guide for myself because so it goes on forever in terms of all these different terms that people are using. And then I compartmentalize them into if someone homicidal. So you might have someone else that words it differently. And you have like 10 different wording differences. And is someone feeling hopelessness? So anyway, not to simplify it too much, but at the end of the day, it feels like from all these guides and all these SPJs, structured professional judgment, that for the most part, people are asking the same core questions. They're wording it differently and then applying it for different work environments, whether it's student environments, whether it's a corporate environment. But really the essence of behavioral threat assessment, you didn't ask me that, but I'm going to tell you.
Just go on. I'm not interrupting you. Okay, go on.
Is having a multidisciplinary team, so a team of professionals, and it might be the chief of public safety, mental health counselor, someone from HR, someone from legal, and then you can have so many different variations. Let's say that there's a university and you have dorms, so you have someone who's in charge of the dorms there, or maybe a religious community, so you might have pastoral services. So it just depends on the culture. So you have a team, this really awesome team, and hopefully they've all had training, and they know what they're doing, right? Because we see that a lot where teams are in place, but they don't know what they're doing. And we educate the community on if you see something that's different, and we have these bullet points and different guidance on what to see that's different in their normal behavior. It might be a grievance that they're really upset at the CEO of the company and they just got fired. So we have these different indicators that then they report to a team member. And we've seen some teams are still figuring that out. Some that have gotten really advanced and they have great reporting mechanisms. The team meets on a regular basis and they staff these cases and they have a guide of questions. We have the Belanti threat assessment guide, the BTAG, but there's other guides that people use to really, first of all, see, is there a potential danger? And so we look at the pathway to violence from Calhoun and Weston, but really the assessment piece is the first piece of the puzzle. You get the information and you're constantly pulling in facts. You're looking at social media correctly and ethically and legally, but that social media dive, finding out if the person's venting on social media. And then let's say, oh, Jim's like, yes, there is a issue here, and time is of the essence. The person has access to weapons. They have this grievance. They have been homicidal, and they've been ideating or having ideation over things. So then you quickly are into that management plan. And that's one thing I just continue to love about threat assessment is that it's not that you're punitive and you're out to get the person, but it's really done hopefully in a supportive manner to okay, we have Sally Smith. She's on this pathway to violence. What can we do to get her off that pathway and give her some good supports to help have some positive influences in her life? So she left her gardening club and she's isolated and she's just perseverating over being angry at her coworkers. What could we do in a natural way to be creative to get her some support? So each case is so different. Well, you know,
no,
I'm acting
but
like
I want them to know.
But I fell in love with behavioral threat assessment, finding out that a lot of us need to learn more about this. Our communities need to learn about it. And then the reporting aspect.
Yeah.
Which we have seen over the last few years, the upstanders and bystanders reporting.
Yeah.
But then what do we see as an issue?
Yeah.
They report, and then the teams are like,
what do we do with it?
We have a whole new team and no one's had training, and they maybe don't meet very often, or they don't know what to do when they meet. So there's
that's
so
why training is such an important aspect of this. And you know what we find too? I mean, just imagine this. Our whole show is about, are we good, right? And we're asking that question, are we good? I need like a cool movie voice. Are we good? But anyways, I just don't have it. That's called a voiceover. We're going to get some famous person.
You got it. You got your thing. Are we good?
I want James Earl Jones' voice, and have him like do that as a voiceover.
Tried Earl Jones.
I can't. I just can't. There's only one. I can't. I'm not even going to make a fool of myself.
That's fair enough.
And as everyone can tell, Rebecca is just brilliant. And I'm not trying to inflate your ego here. She really is kind of like my little sister. And I give her grief. She gives me grief. But
wait, I thought you're my little brother. Well, our birthdays are pretty close. But
well, they're pretty close.
Okay, I'll be your little sister. I'm
taller than you. Bigger. I'm big. I'm a big dude. Anyways, it's all muscle, just so everyone knows. It's kind of disguised. But anyways, but the reality is Rebecca brings so much to the table. And as much as I give her grief, and every time she's on this show, you're going to see a little bit of grief given out. She shovels it right back at me, usually with an entire dump truckload. But the reality is you can see the depth of this knowledge. And I think that's so important. And kind of going back for just a minute to kind of draw some of the expertise, but we're going to dive into this much further in upcoming episodes. But the training, that is what we're seeing right now, is just this great concern. Because imagine, this is where I was going with this point, was imagine today is the day where things go wrong, they go bad, and you have a team that has assessed a situation, come up with a management plan, a safety plan. You're hopefully in your mind on the right space, the right path. It goes bad. And that does happen. I mean, I've seen some of the greatest ideas of management plans and everything where it still goes wrong. And that's when the lawsuits fly. That's when people start asking questions. That's when your brand as an organization is impacted, because people say, wow, look at what happened at that particular organization, school, government, whatever it might be. Did they do everything they could have? Right. Are we good? Right. And what we find in some of those cases is individuals on that team weren't trained to the level they should be, and don't think for 1 second through discovery it's going to be missed that you have team members 1 through 4 had great training. They were trained as professional threat assessors. Team members 5 through 6, I got to keep my numbers straight here. I'm actually a numbers guy. Team members 5 through 6, no training.
Right.
Hey, we just thought it'd be great to have someone on the team here. So again, I think that's something we need to stress. Is that not right? That the training is critical.
And keeping track of who's had what training.
Yeah.
How did you come up with Are We Good?
That's actually an interesting story. And I'm not going to divulge any names or locations here to protect the innocent. But I was having a conversation one day, and I have had incredible opportunities as a part of the team here to travel all over the country, meet with different organizations, meet with different leaders, provide them assistance in developing their teams, evaluating the physical security of their organization. I mean, the list goes on. Trust me, lots of variety and lots of fun. And I was having a meeting one day with a leader of an organization after evaluating one of their teams. And this individual asked me, like, what do I need to know? Are we good? Are we, yeah, I don't think he quite used that terminology because I used it. And I looked at him and I said, yeah, the question is, are we good? And the answer is no. I mean, we're not. There's things that have to change, things that have to be done to put you in a position to prevent violence, to demonstrate that you have done what's reasonable. It's kind of like the Fort Knox theory here. We could build Fort Knox to keep people out of breaking into homes and businesses, right? Who would ever go there? You wouldn't go home and go, let me go through 17 layers of guards, bunch of fancy weapons, steel bars, doors. We wouldn't do that. But what's reasonable is, we lock it up, we protect it the best we possibly can, those sort of things. And so that's kind of where this concept.
So you asked the question, are
we good? Are we good? And I said, isn't that what we're talking about today? Is, are we good? And no, we're not. We're not.
And good for you for being candid, because
I was honest.
Yep, that's what we do. Yep.
And it's something that has to happen. And it's a conversation that has to take place. And I think kind of going back to that as part of this story is, I'm going to challenge everyone as you're listening to this. I want you to ask the question, are we good? And I don't want you to discount it because, I'm not the CEO. I'm not the COO. I'm not the head of public safety. I'm not the police chief. So what does that matter? We all are partners in that, right? Mm-hmm. And because imagine this, at a higher level in an organization, which, we've been there, done that, you're not going to always know the intricacies, certainly, and you shouldn't, because you should trust your team. But the questions you're asking at a particular level are maybe more higher level. Mm-hmm. Hey, do we have a threat assessment team? Whereas as you go filtered further down that chain, then the question for that level is, let me understand the structure of that team. What's the training level of people? How many cases do we work? What do we do? What do we have for management plans? And so I would encourage and challenge everyone that it's a question every one of us should ask every day. And it's not just about threat assessment. This show generally deals with violence prevention. That's the basis of this, but that's a wide berth. And today we're kind of focusing on behavioral threat assessment, but we're going to go into a lot of those other areas over the years. But I think really kind of looking at big picture, and this is also, I don't want to exclude kind of the emergency preparedness, disaster kind of stuff too. Right. Because that's a question you're going to ask, right? I mean, there's a lot of organizations where, we're totally good with fire. We can respond to an earthquake. Well, let me tell you, as a guy who in my professional career, I went through 2 earthquakes in California, and I was on the front line of responding to one of those. The other one, my front line was actually Disneyland, and I was waiting to get in line. But that's a whole nother story. And while everyone else was doing all great heroic work, I was at Disneyland because you were being goofy. I was being goofy, and I was a visitor. I wasn't it wasn't my place to do anything. But anyways, but I think really when you think about that, the "are we good" is such a broad terminology, and
even with the PIO work that you've done.
Yeah. So
that ties into the threat assessment.
20 plus years of being a talking head, and ask this question.
PIO is
Public Information Officer.
Okay.
And so, in doing that work, I got asked that question many times from my leadership saying, hey, as we're dealing with certain situations, sometimes we're in the right, sometimes we weren't in the right, we were in the wrong. And the question would be, so Bennett, are we good? And sometimes I'd say,
I think it's such a great name for this podcast. Yeah,
it's going to be fun.
And to see you on location at various places, that's going to be fun.
Oh yeah. So we'll just warn you ahead of time. I know you can't tell this because you think I'm a very stiff guy who, isn't having a good time whatsoever. But you're probably going to see some of our fun commercials, ads out there as we go through things and we talk about different things we do. And I'm going to try to relate the real world to what we do. Keep in mind, I'm married to a park ranger. So my world deals with the natural world, which kind of is weird when you talk about violence prevention, but you're going to hear this overlap. So don't be surprised if I'm in the middle of Yellowstone National Park
I love
with
it. I love it.
a geyser exploding behind me, and somehow I'm going to help us relate that to violence prevention. Challenge me on that.
Leave
that
it
will
to
happen.
Bennett. Yep, I bet you will.
It will
You
happen.
Yep.
So one thing, again, I know I said it before, but we really ask everyone, please share this podcast. Even if there's an episode where you're like, he talked too much, just tell them, watch the next episode. Just don't watch that one. Because there'll be another guest that you're going to love.
Oh, we have so many guests lined up. Yeah, I'm just so excited about it.
I'm super excited.
Great.
Well, I think this has been hopefully a good introduction to who we are. Hopefully the 50% that were like, that guy's too goofy, turn it off. Please come back.
Hopefully I can come back and talk more about the BTAG and some of the projects we're doing. And then also, Jim, the topic of well, we call it compassion resiliency, but I'm switching it up a little bit because I've gotten requests from people of talking about your fatigue and lack of burnout, but also the importance of humor and stress. And so I'd love to come back and talk about that, whether for security professionals, threat assessment professionals, teachers, anyone.
It's relevant to everyone.
Relevant. So
absolutely.
I'd love to come back and talk about
We're going to do the show on that. And actually, because it's my show and I can switch things around, it sounds like I was closing it out. I'm not going to close it out yet because I do want to go back with one question here because to me, it's just kind of a hallmark and people are talking about it. It's a popular tool. And I want to kind of dial people in for just a minute. I promise we're almost done. I want to dial us back into a comment you just made about BTAG.
Oh, yeah.
As that being a kind of the hallmark of our threat assessment process. So I guess when we're talking to our audience that are all practitioners, either you already use the BTAG or you're very familiar with it, or you use a similar type of tool in your work. So bear with us for a minute. But for everyone else out there, I want you to kind of tell us what BTAG is and how is it used in threat assessment?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you circled back and I'll try to boil it down.
Yeah.
Okay,
We
so
can't go
remember
on forever.
remember I talked about the matrix and how I plotted out all those different guides.
Yeah.
Okay, so and you've helped develop this, the BTAG, where there are those key questions that any team they need to ask.
Yeah.
Now you get those basic demographics and do your intake and date and all that. So that's there, of course.
Yeah.
But then you have these key questions that it's not a one and done. So there's some tools that you're asking yes, no, you're rating. This is not. This is to guide the team's conversation. And let's say we ask, does the person have access to weapons? And we're like, we have no clue. Okay, Bennett, you have access to A, B, and C. Can you help find out if this person has access to weapons? We document that JB, Jim Bennett, he's going to access it, date it. He comes back with some details. So we document that. So it's this guide of the conversation to make sure you're not missing key areas.
Right.
And for getting that information to put together not only their assessment, but then their plan. So it simplifies it a little too much. And I know I should be, well, it feels like I should be preaching the BTAG. There's other guides out there. I know that we've worked with teams where they've even used Calhoun and Weston's Pathway to Violence.
Yeah.
You know, it starts at the grievance all the way to implementation. So whatever works for the team. But when we do our training, we circle around the BTAG. People love it, especially because in our training, we have mock scenarios. And we've worked hard over the years to make some pretty amazing scenarios, or we call them vignettes, to where the mock team, they come together and we put in injects and they assess the situation and also put together a management team.
Yeah.
Or management plan. Not
management plan
team.
And a safety plan, depending on the type of person that is being victimized or could be victimized. No, I think that is such an important tool. And, you know, and just to kind of build on that, if you can imagine, because I work with teams where we actually use this, you know, as many of you do out there, but as an instructor, as a facilitator, I get an opportunity to work with them using it, like right in front of me. And it's asking those questions. And here's the the difference. We certainly always recommend, and very much best practices across the board. If you talk to the United States Secret Service, the FBI, the U.S. Postal, everyone agrees that multidisciplinary. It was a big word. Okay. So multidisciplinary teams, I only say it like 17,000 times a week. Must be, I'm getting tired. But anyways, multidisciplinary teams bring certainly a lot of talent together, but it still doesn't mean you're going to know all the questions to ask. This helps you formulate those questions, document them. So then as you move through the process, you're looking at it and going, hey, what did you say, Rebecca, about the weapons? I don't remember. No, it's right there. And it's documented permanently. It's something that you can use as a team. And so for those of you that aren't familiar with this, like I had mentioned, we're going to dive into some of this stuff in the future so you can understand what threat assessment is, in addition to all the multitude of violence prevention we're going to cover.
Good.
But I'm going to have, by the time you've watched X number of episodes, I'll make you watch like 3,000. I don't know. But once you've watched plenty of episodes, if you don't do threat assessment, you're not familiar with threat assessment, you don't know if your organization should or should not do it, I'll give you enough. My guests will give you enough. Rebecca will give you enough for you to make an educated decision on that. And this is it, folks. Thank you, Rebecca, for being here for our first ever episode.
Should we do this or anything?
Oh, absolutely.
Wonder Twins.
Yeah, Wonder Twins. Woo! My granddaughters do that where they do this and that's, anyways, that probably sounded terrible on the microphone. But anyways, holy schmoly, I made it through the whole thing and then I knocked my microphone over.
Okay, that means we need to wrap it up.
Okay, so folks, thank you for joining us. Rebecca, thank you.
Absolutely.
I hope this has been our opportunity to kind of show you who we are and our personalities, because you'll never see it again. After this, you're going to see absolute seriousness.
No, you're going to have fun with this.
Okay, you're right.
Be great.
You're right. Yep. I can't hold it in.
You guys are in for a treat.
Well, wait till you see the guests.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They'll be like, could the guests just kind of sit in front of Jim so we don't have to see him?
Jim makes it fun. Yeah.
We're going to have a great time. Super looking forward to it.
Me too.
Share this with your friends. Next week, we got a great, I guess that's actually our second show. This is kind of like our premiere pre-show. I don't know what we're going to call this. But anyways, our next show is going to be phenomenal. Be there. Join us. Go today to arewegood.net. arewegood.net. There's more information for you there. It's your opportunity to join the good squad, go into the squad room, see this stuff. Like we were talking just now about the pathway to, I can just go on forever because this is in 15 minutes. I'll talk all day long. You talked about the pathway to violence. Mm-hmm. I'll make sure that in there's a copy of it. So people, if you're like, what does that mean? Yeah. Just looking at that, even if you are completely not familiar with threat assessment, violence prevention, it makes sense. There's blanks that needs to be filled in by the professionals or me. And so we'll help you get there, and you're going to hear that, but check it out because it actually makes sense. And it's now been around for over 20 years. And all of us as threat assessment professionals, we refer to that all the time.
Thank you, Calhoun and Weston.
Thank you.
That's an iconic document.
It is iconic.
Yep.
Everywhere I go,
yep.
Everyone in threat assessment knows what that means. So anyways,
okay,
this is it. I'm actually going to pull the plug here, or production's just going to cut me off. So maybe they've already cut me off and I'm just talking to the air. But anyways, but that means you are too. So anyways, thank you all. We'll see you next week. And don't forget to ask the question, are we good? Was that movie tone enough?
That was good.
See ya.